My superpower is engineering. I've been a roboticist almost all my life now. I think engineering is just as creative as the arts. Engineers, we solve problems. It impacts the world. It makes a difference. Without IEEE, I don't think I would have the network that I have. Anyone can get involved with IEEE USA at any time. There's an immense amount of value for anyone at any career stage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another IEEE USA Livestream webinar, Career Happiness, 7 Steps to Get It and Keep It. I'm your host, Jonathan Cho. This is the first of a 2-part series presented by Julie Bauke, Chief Career Happiness Officer of the Bauke Group. Julie believes that we all deserve careers that serve our lives. Her 30-plus years of experience working with executives, professional athletes, and career-focused people of all industries and professions brings practical inspiration on how to live our best career lives from start to finish. Her firm, the Bauke Group, is focused on bringing career development and engagement strategies to individuals and organizations. Julie is a sought-after national media expert, workshop facilitator, and keynote speaker, and has been featured by more than 100 prominent media outlets including CNBC, Money Magazine, and weekly TV segments with the Scripps News Network. She's also author of the book Stop Peeing on Your Shoes: Avoiding the 7 Mistakes That Screw Up Your Job Search, and the creator of Career Catalyst, an intentional career management experience. Without further ado, I will now pass it off to our presenter. Welcome, Julie. We're very excited for what you have for our audience today.
Thank you. I am just thrilled to be here because we get to talk about my favorite topic, which is your career. Yes, your career is my favorite topic. You might think it's my career, but no, it isn't. I have been, how does one come to be interested in career happiness? You know, I did my first 16 years in human resources. And I just realized I said I did like I was serving time, but it kind of felt like it. And I was in human resources and just marveled at the number of people who were miserable and didn't do anything about it. I was like, why are you still here? You know, these are the people that complain about what color the walls are because they're just unhappy. And I used to want to say, well, there's the door. Why are you still here? I mean, I marveled at that. And I think mostly because I'm a miserable human being when I'm unhappy at work. And I knew that they couldn't be much fun outside of their world either, outside of their work, at home either. So then I got the opportunity to work with people who'd just been let go, laid off usually. And I learned a heck of a lot about why we stay in jobs we don't like. And what does it really mean to be career happy? What are those things those factors, those pieces that go into whether we're happy at work or not? And I learned that there's so much wrapped up in this that are just a part of our system that doesn't work. And what we see happening now, depending on the age you are and who you work with, Gen Z is really changing the game. And boomers are not happy about it. Yet at some level, I believe boomers are kind of like, yeah, wait a minute. Maybe they have the right idea. Maybe I didn't do it right. And so my whole world, my whole last 25 plus years has really been around career happiness. What does it mean? What is it? What does it mean? And how should you be moving through your career? So for the next two, and how I got here was I'm in Cincinnati. I was doing a program for a company here. And somebody who attended it contacted IEEE and said, you need to have her do a webinar for us. So here I are, getting ready to talk to you about career happiness. And first of all, let me get really clear. This is for you, whether you are 25, 22, 35, 45, 55, 60 something, it's for you. It would also be for you if you were an engineer, an accountant, a marketing person, a professional baseball player, a police officer, because the process is the same. The verbs are the same. The how you do it's the same. It's just the nouns are different. So engineers will talk about this differently than a police officer would. But the process of career happiness and of getting the career you want and keeping it, it's exactly the same conversation. And it's also, like I said, doesn't matter what stage you're in, because guess what? We're all human beings and we all want the same things. It just might look different. So if you're sitting here thinking, my gosh, I'm 22, 23, I've just taken my first job and I'm miserable. How did I get here? What do I do about it? And I know you're on there. Or if you're 62 saying, I'm so burnt out on what I'm doing, but I have so much energy and wisdom to share. That's great. You've all come to the right place. There's something here for everybody. It's the same process. So this hour, we're going to do about 45 minutes of content, about 15 minutes of questions. And then we're going to come back in 2 weeks. We're going to do the rest of it. But I'm going to give you some work to do, homework to do in the meantime. So when I was preparing these slides, okay, your career happiness, the YOUR, I'm not shouting at you. I'm simply saying what I'm trying to point out is career happiness is absolutely an individual thing. It's an inside job. My definition of career happiness is different than yours. Have you ever had a friend and they're like, yeah, here's my new job. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'd rather pull my fingernails out than do that job. Yeah, we've all been there. But your job sounds like pulling fingernails to somebody else. And so our definition of career happiness is different. And that's why when somebody says to you, oh, you should come work at the XYZ company in my department, we love it. It doesn't mean you're going to love it. And so this definition of career happiness is absolutely personal. And I think everybody on this call is like, well, that makes sense. But how do you get there? How do you do it? And that's frankly the missing piece. And so if you're out there and wondering, I'm miserable, how did I get here? I hear you, because we go from high school to college or some sort of continuing education. It might be a certificate program, a 2-year program. It might be anything to work. And we just go through the system. And nobody taught us how to navigate our career maybe after we get that first job. You get that first job, it's like, okay, now you're done. Well, that's the way it used to be. Back when I was graduating from college, you took a corporate job and you hung on for dear life. And thankfully, we're way past that now. So yay to that. But what that leaves in its place is a gaping void. Now what do I do? Yeah, I get that I'm responsible for my career. I always say it's called your career for a reason. But what do I do with that? So we developed this program that I'm going to go over with you to help you start thinking about what does career happiness mean to you and how do you navigate your career regardless of where you are and what your career is. So these are the facts that we're dealing with today. So for those of you who have people reporting to you, I want you to listen with 2 hats. I want you to put on your own career happiness hat, and I want you to put on your leader of others hat, because those are the 2 things you need to think about. I just saw this stat. I'm like, you'd be kidding me. 94% of people would consider staying if their organization invested in their career development. That's a LinkedIn 2023 survey. You can't get 94% of people to agree on anything. Think about that number. I'd stay if my company invested in career development. According to the Harvard Business Review, this is one of the 4 employee pillars. The employee value prop is career development. 74% of people believe it's a good time to look for another job. That's Gallup. What is so interesting to me and so confounding to people who aren't paying attention is that despite all the upheaval, despite layoffs, despite everything, worries about the economy, people are still feeling really confident. Unemployment is still below 4%. Below 4%. So, and then I saw another stat today that said 58% of people say, yeah, I'm going to look for another job next year, or I'm going to get started. Wow. So there's a lot of confidence in the job market. But the truth is, 100% of you, everybody on this call, and everybody on your teams, for the right opportunity, are in play. LinkedIn makes it that way. You can be picked off. And I say to that, yay, because you always need to be thinking about what's next. The only way to think about what's next is to be in the game. The idea that you're going to put your head down and stay where you are and just, this whole loyalty thing that doesn't exist, don't get me started on that, but is that you always need to operate with integrity. But if something better for your career and that's going to make you happier comes along, you always need to at least have that conversation. You need to be doing that, but just know that everybody on your team is doing that as well. And so your ability as a leader to invest in this for your people is huge. And these are just the facts that we're dealing with. I was on a few radio shows this morning, and people are just, wringing their hands. What does this mean? Why are people looking to leave? I said, you better get used to these numbers because they're here to stay. And so let's not try to stuff people into a box, but let's say, how can we make our workplaces better so people can find career happiness where they are? All right. So what is this career happiness that I speak of? It's a 4-legged stool. And I put this together. I made this up based on my bazillion years working with people, humans from all industries and all professions. There's 4 legs to the career happiness stool. First is you like your work. You like it. If you're lucky, you love it. I love what I do. And I actually know plenty of people who do absolutely love what they do. That's huge. And that's the first leg of the stool. The second is you're good at it. You can love to do it and not be good at it. Like, I might love to sing, but I'm smart enough to keep the windows rolled up when I'm in my car. So I know I'm not good at it, but I like it, which means nobody's ever going to pay me to do it. Believe me. So we're good at it, we like it, and we're good at it. If we're lucky, we're great at it and we love it. So those 2 things, that's 2 of the 4 legs. Now, you also have to be able to get paid to do it, because if you can't, it's a hobby. And we all need hobbies, obviously. And the pieces of pay are, there needs to be a demand for it in the market, at your workplace, and it needs to pay what you need to make for your life, to afford your life. So if you want to run a very small nonprofit and make $250,000 a year, you're not going to do that. And so it has to be supported by what you need and what the market needs. Now, the fourth one here is the one that this is the one I will often ask people. I'll say, okay, think about the worst job you've ever had. Vision. Okay. So vision, do that. Think about the worst job you've ever had. Worst one. It could be a summer job. Any job that you've ever had that you were like, I can't wait to get out of here. When I ask that question, and then I ask people which of the legs of this stool was missing or the weakest, it's generally the fourth leg, which is I wasn't working in a place or a way I could be successful. You can call this culture. You can call this your relationship with your boss, your relationship with your coworkers. It's really the where, it's the how you're working. You can be in a great job that you love and you get paid well and you're just kicking it, but you are just kicking it. But if you have to commute 90 minutes each way every day, if you've got what we now call, I guess, a toxic culture, you've got a bad leader, it's highly political, let's say, and it just, saps your soul to work in that job, your stool, you're going to sit on that stool and it is going to fall over. About 3/4 of the people, when I ask this question, will tell you that's the one. That's the one that causes it to fall over. Now, it doesn't mean you're working at a bad company. It could just be the department you're in is not a great fit for you. So the analogy I always use is, look, if you're an orange, you will thrive on an orange tree, hanging on an orange tree. If you try to go grow on a lime tree, you won't, because you're not a lime. And so this is not throwing shade at any organization or department. It's simply saying you don't fit everywhere, and you shouldn't. This is why I hate it when I see these 10 best companies to work for. How do you know? Best for who? Best for these people, maybe not best for you. I always look at those lists and say, oh no, I know enough about these cultures. No. That's okay. You're an orange. You got to find an orange tree. So these are the 4 pieces. Now, I put this out here because you have to stay vigilant. You have to watch the 4 legs of this stool. This is also a wonderful diagnostic tool to figure out what's not working. If you've ever woken up and said, I used to like my job. I don't like it now. What happened? You can go look at the career happiness formula and say, what has changed? What has changed? Has the substance of your job changed? Or is it a leadership issue? Or do you feel like you're being paid under market? Is there not demand for it, so you're not getting exciting opportunities? What is it? You can't start to fix something until you know what it is, what the piece that's broken. It's like going to the doctor and saying, I just don't feel good. He or she's going to say to you, what's the first thing they're going to say? Where do you hurt? And that's what this does. It helps you say, okay, my definition of career happiness is different from everybody else on this call, and I have to watch this as I move through my career. So this is what we're striving for. And here's the tricky part. You might be sitting here today saying, oh gosh, I got it all. I got all 4 of those things. I am on fire. I had a former client one time who called me and said, you will not believe this. He said, I just last week found the career happiness formula. And I was looking at it and I was saying, ooh, God, I have it all. He's high-fiving himself. He said, then I come in on Monday and we have a new boss. Oops, the new boss is somebody I fired 5 years ago. And he said, I knew right then I had to get out. Because I was kind of hoping maybe he wouldn't remember me. Of course he did. So things can change in a heartbeat. And so this is sort of that framework that you use to say, is it working for me where I am? If not, what do I want to change? Then you look at it and say, are the things that are making me unhappy, are they fixable? Are they fixable? Sometimes they are. Sometimes you move to a new job in your organization. You change up some of the things on your desk. You have to have a conversation with people at work to be able to do that. Maybe you move into a different team or move to a different division in your organization. So the question is not leaving. The question is, how can you pivot and maneuver inside your organization first as an option? And so this is how you identify what that is. Okay, here's the 7 steps. Now, we developed this last year when a global company came to me and said, our people like working here. They like our culture. They like everything about it. But they want to be able to navigate this organization on their own. They want the tools to manage their careers here. And so I put this together for them, and then I created it as a program for individuals who are unemployed, who are underemployed, who are unhappily employed, or for organizations to help create career happiness where they are as a retention and engagement strategy. So 7 steps. Today, we're going to go over the first 4, okay? I'll tell you what they mean. Next time, in 2 weeks, we're going to go over the last 3 and bring it all home. So the first is self-awareness. Self-awareness. What are you good at? I'm going to guess with great confidence that if I ask any of you, what are you good at? You would stumble and not be able to articulate what you're good at, what you're great at. I want you to think of it this way. You're at a big meeting, a big company meeting, and you get on the elevator and your department head, a person like you never interact with, or the CEO or some big shot, let's just say, gets on the elevator with you. And she turns to you and says, well, hello, Fred. I don't think we've met before. What do you do here? What do you contribute to this organization? What value do you add? I'm going to guess that 99% of you would be like, whoa, you'd pull the fire alarm to try to get out of that elevator so you don't have to answer that question. I got to go. Because we've been told don't brag. We've been told let your work speak for itself. And I'm just going to go on a wild limb here and say that on this call, we have a lot of introverts who are uncomfortable saying, here's what I'm good at. Because it is uncomfortable, whether you're an introvert, an extrovert, whether you're 25, 55, 65, because we all don't want to be that person who thinks they're the best at everything and brags. And we don't want to be that person, but you don't have to be. But understanding what you're good at matters. The second is reputation management. What do other people think of you? How are you perceived? The third is alignment with organization needs. And what I mean by that is the value you bring, is it necessary? Is it valued? Is it going to be part of the organization's future? If what you are and how you're perceived is not necessary to your organization and how they're going to move forward, or the organization's future, you will risk being on the layoff list. The fourth is an alignment of your personal and professional lives. This is something that I might not have put in 20 years ago, but I really do appreciate it now. The sectors of our lives are completely blended together now because of COVID, because of technology, because of all these things. And there's a real struggle around that going on. But you have to, if you're going to live without boundaries, which most of us are these days, you have to understand that all of this works together. The fifth is career goal setting. The sixth is network building and management. And I get it. You're going to look at network and go, I'm not networking. You can't make me. But I'm going to explain it differently than maybe you've heard it in the past. I'm going to make it doable for you. And the last is really intentional career conversations. Once you go through this 6-step process, I would love to tell you now at this point, you write it all down and put it under your pillow and wait for the career fairy to show up. But that doesn't work. Look, if I could make that happen, I'd be living on an island somewhere and you'd have palm trees in my background. But you have to act. Once you know who you are, what you want, what your value is, how you're perceived, what your goals are, and you have those relationships, you have to act. Nobody can do it for you. We mere mortals do not have agents. And so being your own agent and advocating for yourself as you navigate your career is the best gift you can give yourself. I'm going to say it again. It's called your career for a reason. All right. So let's talk about this. Self-awareness, self-knowledge and awareness. What value do you bring? What are you really good at? Now, if you've done a lot of interviewing, you probably are familiar with the question, tell me your strengths and weaknesses, which frankly, I think strengths is great. I hate the weaknesses part because people usually make stuff up. But what are your strengths? So what are you good at? What are 3 things that you're good at or great at that set you apart, that you feel most like you when you're doing, that you have great confidence when you're doing, that you're like, man, these are the things people come to me for. What are those 3 people? What value do you bring to this organization? Hey, think about it. If you can't articulate what value you bring to your organization, it's hard for you. What you're really doing then is you're outsourcing management of your career to other people. Back in my day, it was like you just sat in the corner and did what you were told until somebody else told you it was time for you to go move on or get a promotion or go over here. And when I look back on that, that's so powerless. And boomers and older Xers who might be on here absolutely know that feeling, and it was bad. So but in place of that, you have to be able to say, I've been with the XYZ Corporation for the last 5 years. I've been in the product development area, and I've been involved on this project and this project. What I have brought to this organization, or what people value about me, is my ability to solve the most complex problems, the ability to work effectively with the most difficult customers, whatever it is. What are you good at? And I promise you, it's really uncomfortable when you start thinking about this and you start articulating this. I mean, I wasn't born being able to do this. I had to practice. And I remember one time somebody saying, oh, you're a really good parallel parker. And I was like, I am a good parallel parker. That even felt weird. That even felt like, but I'm sure there's someone better. We do that. But what it does is it blunts our power. Everybody on this call has things that you are really, really, really good at. Really good at. I promise you. I don't even know you all, and I know that. Comfortably and confidently tell your story. I don't want to brag. If you did it, it ain't bragging. If you start saying things like, I'm the best on the planet, or you start to explain things to people who know more about stuff than you do, and you're blustery, you're an empty suit, people see right through that. So how can you do this authentically? That's the trick. All right. So I just wrote mine so you could see the difference. Okay. This is so I say team A, when you're out interviewing, or internal interview or external, tell me about yourself. Don't we all hate that question? So here's mine. I'm a career coach who believes that everyone can have a career that's fulfilling and meaningful. My business is focused on providing tools, processes, and inspiration for individuals and organizations to become career happy. Cannot read all this? Okay. I am also a national media source, and I regularly appear on radio and TV and recognized as a thought leader on career and work topics. Okay. So given all that, I do webinar speeches. You would know what to come to me for. After reading this, or after I said this, you wouldn't be like, I wonder if Julie's good at accounting. We should see if Julie wants to come sing at our event, or see if she wants to do some project management of a supply chain issue. No, don't do that. I look at this as this is so you know what to come to me for. I'm very clear on those things, and it feels, when I say those things, I'm like, yeah, that's me. You all have something like this. You all do. And so it doesn't come easily or naturally a lot of times to speak like this, or to say these things about yourself. But I promise you, I used to not be able to do it either. So it's really about practice. Now, if I said those things about myself and they weren't true, like if I was walking around saying, give me a spreadsheet and put me in a room and close the door and I will be so happy. People who've worked with me would probably not really believe that, because it would not be true. Oh man, I am good with detail. Let me plan an event. No, do not do that. Do not do that. That would not be good. So what I'm doing is, in that previous slide, is I'm telling you what to come to me for. I'm telling you what to know me as. I am telling you, I'm not trying to be everything to everybody. What I'm trying to do is say, here's who I am. So now, what do other people think of you? Because how you're perceived, how you see yourself, and how other people see you needs to be really close. And believe me, you already have a reputation. You do. We all do. So is it, oh, look, Mary's coming to our meeting. Mary's coming to our meeting at 2:00 today. Oh, good luck. She's never on time. Oh, we've got Jamar on our team. Oh, fantastic. He always has the best ideas. Oh, Tiffany is going to be meeting with us. Oh, geez. She is such a gossip. Everybody be sure you don't say anything that you don't want repeated. We all have a reputation. What is yours? What is yours? What is it? And what is it not? I remember asking a bunch of young people one time, I listed 10 things. Are you good at this? And they all were like, everybody in the room was like, I'm good at all those 10 things. I'm like, no, there's no way. Sorry. What are you good at? You don't have to be good at everything. You don't have to be all things to all people. How are you perceived in your professional world? So here's a reputation statement example. Throughout my career, my colleagues and direct reports have consistently communicated to me that what they value most in me and count on me for is providing strong leadership to our team and my ability to be focused and consistent, yet flexible when unexpected challenges arise. Now, you might be saying to yourself, how do I know this? How do I find this stuff out? Well, I bet you already know some of this stuff, but you have performance appraisals. You have letters of commendation and appreciation. You have LinkedIn recommendations and assessments. But you know what? You can also ask people what they value about you. It's a lot easier to say to somebody, what are the 3 adjectives that come to mind when you think of me? Most people are happy to answer this. What they aren't so comfortable with is, what are the 3 things I'm horrible at? Don't do that, because you're not going to get a good response, frankly. What are the tools that currently exist in your current organization or other places you've worked to help you gather feedback on your reputation? And so now we're saying, okay, here's who I am. Here's the value I bring. Here's how other people see me. That is so powerful. I promise you, if you nail that, you'll sit up straighter. So then we move on. Say, okay, so here's who I am. Here's what I'm good at. So what? If the things I'm good at and I love doing and people value about me are not necessary or are not going to be part of what the organization needs moving forward, you've got a challenge. Either you need to find an organization that does value those things, or you have to reskill, add some some skills, some tools, some knowledge to your toolkit. But hear me, this is up to you. I know that a lot of organizations out there are adding opportunities to learn and grow, which is great. But first of all, you've got to take advantage of those things. And if you're not offered those things, you have to go find them yourself. I mean, you guys know YouTube, just even YouTube alone will teach you so much. So don't sit there and think, it looks like my knowledge, this product is being phased out. This product is being phased out. My expertise is on this product. How are those skills transferable? How are they transferable to other places? Or are they? They may not be. Organizations move and grow and change, as do you. So the trick is, how do we keep those together? And this applies whether you're currently employed or seeking employment. If you are between jobs, then you have to make sure that your skills are up to date and that you have what employers are looking for. And there's so much data out there now on jobs and what those jobs are and what they're looking for, that there's no excuse not to be perfectly aligned. And know if you are in, let's say you're working in, you're working at a certain type of company or industry that provides certain products or services, what are the hot topics? How's AI being used? How would you like to grow your skill set? So you think about your skill set as a kit of tools, that it's knowledge, it's skills. We're going to talk next time about networking. It's actually your connections as well. And so how are you maximizing those and leveraging those for your own benefit? Those of you who are on this call who might be older, let's say Gen X or boomers, we really hung on to this idea of loyalty. Where's the loyalty gone? No more loyalty. And I'm just going to call BS on that right now, because the truth of the matter is there was never any such thing as loyalty. An organization can't be loyal to a person. It doesn't exist. The truth is, and this, I say this and people are always like, I don't want to hear that. The truth of the matter is, your organization wants you until the day they don't. If you are working 6 billion hours a week and you're convinced that you are indispensable, you need to get your head out of the sand and look around. If your organization decided on Monday they could live without you on Tuesday, they would. And so this is why this indispensable piece is so important. I talk a lot in my media interviews about, what should people do if they're worried about being laid off? Can they negotiate for hybrid work, for remote work? Well, you know what I say? It depends. If you're a mediocre performer, if you're on a performance plan or you're considered to be a mediocre performer, you get the job done, but you're not setting the world on fire. You might be in the wrong job. In fact, you probably are. Maybe you're dealing with some other things. But the more indispensable you are, the more leverage you have. So let's say you're looking for a job and you happen to have knowledge in a particular skill set that is in high demand. You put that on your LinkedIn profile, you're getting messages left and right from recruiters, from companies, because you happen to know something. Let's say it's some AI tool, and you have gone through all this training, and you now know how to do this. And all of a sudden, boom! I mean, your leverage goes up. The company you'd like to work for, they contact you, and you realize, oh, they've got an in-office policy 4 days a week. You don't really want to do that. Believe me, the more in demand you are, the more leverage you have on every aspect of employment. Likewise, inside your organization, the more highly you are regarded, the more leverage you have. So an example, let's say you decide that you're underpaid. You go look on LinkedIn, you look around, and you realize that you could change jobs for about 20% more. but you really don't want to. But you do realize that you're a high performer who has lots of experience. You don't really want to change jobs because you like your commute or lack of commute. You like your coworkers, you like your boss, you like the other factors that go into career happiness. The first thing you should do is take that data that you have and make a case for yourself with your boss or with human resources. So in other words, try to fix it where you are. Now, here's where that indispensable comes in. If you go to your boss and your boss says, frankly, I don't want to give Ben any more money because if he walks out the door, that's not a big loss. You're probably not going to get it. Let's say your boss instead says, ooh, we cannot lose Ben. Cannot. This entire project's going to fail. He's my strongest performer. We need to do something about this. You have more leverage. The more indispensable you are, the more loyalty you will have from your employer. Now, the other side of the loyalty coin is knowing that your employer wants you until the day they don't. Here's how I want you to think about your career. You will stay as long as it makes sense for you to stay. And what that looks like for each of you is different. Maybe you have small children and you want to wait until they're in elementary school or high school. Maybe you want to wait until your spouse finishes a tour of duty in the military. So as long as it makes sense for you to stay, you're still growing, you're still staying relevant in your career, it might make sense for you to stay. But the minute that stops happening, you absolutely owe it to yourself to put your head up and start thinking about what do you want more of in your career. So this loyalty thing, it's always been a little shaky. We have to look out for ourselves because companies can't be loyal to you. All right, so that's number 3, staying aligned. Number 4, this is one of those things. So this is one of those things I say, we talk about the chapters of life. There were the time when you were a college student. There was a time when you were single and having fun. And then you met somebody, a partner potentially. You settled down. Maybe you got married. You didn't. Maybe you had kids. Maybe you didn't. Your parents grew old. You went through and got a graduate degree. You got to be middle age. You started to have some health problems. We're very comfortable with the concept of life chapters. What I want us to do is get comfortable with the concept of career chapters. So I was talking to somebody who has 5 kids under 5. Yeah, 5 kids under 5. And his company wanted him to take on a management role where he was managing other people. And he said, I don't want it. And I said, well, of course you don't want it. You're already managing 5 people at home. Of course you don't want more people to be responsible for. But what about in 4 years when all of those little people at home are in elementary school? Then would you maybe want to take on a people leadership role? And he said, yeah, maybe. I said, okay. So understanding and what I hear from younger people all the time is I want to have a full life. I don't want to work to live. I don't want to live to work. Sorry. I don't want to live to work. And I want to find balance or integration. And this is very, very, very common now with people I talk to, even smart people, those career chasers, people who all they want is that next title. I'm talking to fewer and fewer of them. So understanding, especially if you're in a 2-income household, it's just you have a lot of responsibilities, maybe outside of you, maybe you're caring for elderly parents, you're a single parent, you yourself have health issues. We have to integrate, we have to think about how do our life priorities mesh with and impact or inform our work choices. If you're getting ready to give birth to twins, you can't be traveling 4 nights a week. So what are those things? Maybe you have a partner and you both have careers and you're trying to make decisions so that everybody gets the most they can get out of their careers without stepping on each other too much. So what are those work and life changes that you have that are going to impact how you move through your career? And it's going to change. And so think about your career in terms of chapters. The old way of get a job, hang on for 40 years and be miserable. And then at 62, you can have fun. Those days, thankfully, are gone. So you want to be more thoughtful about all these periods of your life. So this is where we've gotten so far. We've gotten through the first 4. The next time we're going to talk about the next 3, but I have a couple more slides here I'm going to go over. So I've got some homework for you for next time. I've got some things for you to think about. I hope that our time today has given you a lot to think about already, but we've talked about who am I? How do others see me? How am I indispensable? Am I of value? Am I going to be a part of what this organization wants and needs? How am I looking at my personal and professional life? Learn to say maybe not no, but learn to say not right now. How do I set those career goals? And we're going to talk about career goals, and that just feels big and hairy. I'm going to break it down next time so they feel doable. Boomers on the call will recall back when we interviewed. This is so silly. It's just funny to think about when we were coming out of college, and you were coached, by the placement office about your interview. These interviews coming up with these companies, and you'd practice all these answers to these questions. And where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? And the only appropriate answer was, I'd like to have your job, sir, which is ridiculous. But we were told that was the only way to tell if someone had ambition. So I have to say also, I'm going, got a lot of engineers on here. Any Boilermakers? Special shout out to my fellow Boilermakers. Boiler Up, we all know it's the finest engineering institution in the world. No bias there at all. So it's really, these are the 7 steps, and you can go through this process over and over again. All right. So for next time, here's what I want you to think about. Where are you right now? I use a scale of 1 to 10 because that works for me. Where are you right now in your career happiness journey? Are you a 1? And I would call the 1, you can't get out of bed in the morning. I'd call the 10, I call that skipping to the shower. I'm very fortunate that I'm a 10. So where are you right now on your scale of 1 to 10? And what can you change to move up the scale? What can you change where you are to move up the scale? What would you like to change? What are you willing to do to make the necessary changes? Look, moving, going and talking to your boss about taking a different assignment or moving into a different department or division, or deciding that it's time for you to move to an organization. It is hard. It is so hard. It's hard. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of confidence, and it takes all that stuff. But I'm going to tell you that it's also hard to be miserable at work. Those of you who've been in horrible jobs, or maybe you're in one right now, it's just horrible. It's like wearing shoes that are too small. And pretty soon your feet hurt, your ankle hurts, your knee hurts, you're limping, your hips thrown out, and you're just nasty to everybody you're around. You're crabby. And so what are you willing to do? Choose your hard. And if you have people that report to you, what can you do to help them find their career happiness? Because that's going to make your life easier, because that leads to retention and engagement. So some thoughts before next time, and we're going to take questions, is I have a program called Career Catalyst. That is these 7 steps with workbooks, with assignments, and it's me, but it's me walking through the whole thing. We do it. You can purchase it. We're going to talk about discounts next time, but it's available for you or for your team. We just started a new community called Career Happy Nation that we are just getting launched. And so pardon me if it's not quite right yet. We've just created some content, because my goal, my overriding thing that makes me skip to the shower is I want everybody to be career happy. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and here's my email address. I also do webinars. I can do a webinar for your company, speak at your event, do workshops, etc. So if you like what you hear and you want to talk more about it, feel free to reach out. But in the meantime, do your homework so that we can make next time even more valuable. So thanks for your time. Questions? Do you have any questions, Jonathan?
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Julie. Great presentation. So, folks, we are at the Q&A segment of the webinar. Please post your questions in the comments and live chat section, and we'll post them onto the stream for Julie to answer. Julie, I do see that we got a couple questions. First question, Josh asks, do you necessarily need career goals?
What are you drinking there, Josh? What's that picture? It doesn't have to be huge, okay? Let me tell you what a very simple career goal is. Learn more about what the customers who use this product need. Learn more about how my department interacts with marketing. Those are career goals. I think sometimes we get so caught up in, I have to save the world. I have to end the hunger problem. We get so caught up, I want to run this place. You don't have to. Yes, you have my permission to have goals that are as simple as, I want to learn more about this.
Josh, hope that answers your question. Thank you, Julie. This next question, Brendan Godfrey asks, often individuals do not have realistic knowledge of their capabilities and interests. There are tests that purport to help individuals gain this knowledge. Are they useful? If so, which one?
So there's a lot of assessments that are self-reporting, where it's like, the output will depend on how you answer the questions. Those are not the ones you want to do. I would say there are feedback tools. I would talk to your company, your HR department, or anybody in your learning development space. Probably IEEE has those sort of things that allow you to go out and gather information from other people and take that and consider that as you look at yourself. Sometimes, Brendan, it takes a really hard conversation with someone that's reporting to you. I'm really great at that. And I'm going to tell you that I hear this a lot about Gen Z, is they think they're good at everything because they've been told they're a special princess or prince, and they don't like to hear that they're not good at something. And anything that gathers the information of other people is valuable. There's another one called Berkman that I personally like, Birkman, that helps you. It's got I think it's 6 or 8 categories that show you where your strengths and interests lie. And my last 2 are art and music. And I can look at those and go, yeah, that's true. And so what it does is it narrows the field, but it narrows. So I know I'm not good at that. So it helps me focus on those things I am good at. But good old feedback. What are the feedback mechanisms in your company outside of just plain old performance appraisals? Do you have any, every time someone does a project, or every time there's you complete something that was on your list, how do you get feedback? And the more consistent people's feedback is, the more that, the more truth it's going to have to it. Some of what we're seeing now with really young people is that they're just young and they think they're supposed to be good at everything. And part of that will fix itself over time. But right now, you've just got to be willing to say to somebody, here are the 4 or 5 things that you are great at. And I think the more you focus on those things, and Gallup's strength survey can help a lot too. Let's focus on getting you in a role where you're doing most of this. And then here are the things that, either we need to improve on, or let's stay away from those type of jobs. The whole idea behind Clifton and Gallup and StrengthsFinder is, the more you put people in those situations where they lose their strengths, where they use their strengths, the happier they're going to be. This is why I'm so crazy about getting people in the right jobs, because if you put me in a job where I have to do spreadsheets all day, not only am I going to fail, but I'm going to be cranky and miserable. And I'm going to very quickly learn that I'm not good at this. We just did a project with a manufacturing company where we had all of their top talent go through Career Catalyst, which is the program I'm telling you about. It forces you through that process. It forces you to find out and to ask those questions and to come to your boss and talk to your boss about it. And they found that even with their youngest people, they're like, it forced them to get realistic about who they are. And then it also opens up that conversation with your boss. And then, what do people come to you for? And, this whole process that we're talking about, if you're a leader of people, this Career Catalyst process that, I've got it on my website, but we can talk about it. It forces people into a process where it's hard for them to hide from the things they're not great at, because it helps them focus on what they are good at. And once people know what they're good at, it's less risky to say, yes, come to me for these things, but please do not come to me for these things. You get that clarity. It's a journey, and some people never get it.
Really great insight. Thank you, Julie. This isn't a question, but this was a comment sent in by one of our viewers. It takes an immense courage to discover your capabilities. Absolutely, I agree.
Oh,
I think it's very validating what
but
you.
when you do, and we all have those things we're good at. We all have things that we wish we were good at. I mean, there's plenty of things I wish came naturally to me,
Mm,
but they don't. Here's okay. Fully embarrassing example. Okay, fully embarrassing. I can't get my new printer cartridges in my printer. Oh, I'm like, all right. But you know what I can do is make some mean chocolate chip cookies. So I asked my neighbor to help me, and I'm making him cookies.
mm,
So,
good
I
tip.
know I'm like, I could sit here for hours and try to figure it out. I don't know what is going wrong here. But once you understand what you're good at, it becomes less threatening to talk about what you're not good at. Because I'm good at these things. I don't have to be good at everything. If you want somebody to do these things, please go elsewhere. Because that way I have more time to focus on the things I am good at. And that's where my career happiness comes from. That's what gets me skipping to the shower.
Absolutely. It's I don't think there's anything wrong with asking an expert for help on a certain anything. Thanks for that. Thanks for that insight. Next question. Manuel asks, what can you do if you're blocked from achieving upward mobility by the powers that be?
So I think the first thing you have to do is figure out why you're being blocked. You can't solve a problem that you can't articulate. It could be that I'd love to say that it's always a really great reason. It could be anything from they don't like you. It could be they don't see your capabilities like you do. It could be they're looking for something different in that role than what you have to offer. It could be that your time at that organization has come to an end. So here's a great example, Manuel. I've talked to people who say, my boss doesn't like me. We got into it about something, blah, 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 blah. And then we start talking. I say, okay, is it fixable? And the question then is, what we find out sometimes is if you are working for a large company, you sometimes have mobility to get out from under those powers that be into another group. But I've talked to people where it's a family owned company and the person they got crosswise with was a family member. Like, you're not fixing that. It's time for you to move on. So you need to figure out and ask everybody you can think of what you need. If you want to be here and you're sitting here, you've got to figure out what that gap is between where you are and where you want to be. Is it skills? Is it your reputation? Did you make somebody angry? Is it people just don't like the way you wear your hair? We are humans making these decisions. And so the more clarity you can get on what's behind the block, then you can figure out, can I fix it? Or do I need to go find my life's work elsewhere? There will come a time for most of us where it's time to move on. And you've got to learn to recognize that. And how I always say that is figure out what it is, if it's fixable. If you want to fix it, it may not be something you want to fix. We are not destined to be at the same place for 40 years anymore. I don't think any millennial or Gen Z who's on this call right now, I'd be shocked if you contacted me in 20 years. I'll be dead, so don't do that. Or probably in some nursing home. But I'd be shocked if you were still at the same company because that's just not our world anymore.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'd imagine sometimes it's better to just cut your losses and just to find a way to redirect your energy into a more productive kind of path.
And sometimes we get so like, I've got to overcome this. I've got to prove to them I'm great. Really? Is that where you want to be spending your energy? There's times when it's just time to move on. It's just you've outgrown. You're like the expired milk sitting in the refrigerator. It's okay. We've all been that expired milk. Sometimes it's just go on. It's time to go on and find it elsewhere. You'll be so much happier if you do, but don't just jump from one thing to another. Make sure that you're jumping towards something that's going to give you that career happiness.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question, Manuel. This next question, what are some of the informal techniques of knowing about one's reputation?
Here's what I would sort of do a little self-audit experiment. What do people come to you for? Every time someone comes to you, with a question or a challenge. What are people coming to you for? What do people ask you? Then ask the people around you, maybe even in a team meeting, you could say, what do we value about each other? What am I great at? You could even say to people, and I think it's fine to say, I'm looking to start developing, looking to start, growing my career, navigating the organization. And I believe a really important part of that is understanding how I'm perceived. What are the 3 words that come to mind when you think of me? That's so non-threatening. It's so, people are like, oh my gosh, you're so good at, and you're so good at this, you're good at this, you're good at this. This is why this is really fun. A lot of times, the things that we're really good at, we don't even recognize it. We do not even recognize that we're good at it because it's so easy. Like, can't everybody do this? Can't everybody put their new printer cartridges in? Apparently not. And then because we're so close to it, we don't recognize it. It becomes like breathing. So I can get up in front of a room I could probably stand up in front of a room of 10,000 people and not break a sweat. But you ask me to do something that has a lot of data in it, I'm going to go scrub the toilets and highly prefer that. So what do people come to you for? What words do people use when they describe you? This is about gathering data. Well, how about your performance appraisals when you have a project? What do people, well, Sharath, you're really good at this. Can you help me think about this? You are such an expert at this and I'm stuck. You're so good at running a meeting when everybody's like, all over the place. What do people tell you? What do they say to you? What do they come to you for? And then ask. It's all out there. Then combine that with your more formal tools that I'm sure every organization has. And ask for people. You know what else? Here's another way. Ask people for recommendations on LinkedIn. You should have recommendations on LinkedIn. What do people say about you? That's really powerful. I've read some things and I'm like, really? Am I that? Ooh. And then you hear it a few times. You're like, yeah, I guess I am. I need to start embracing that. Didn't really think about it. I thought everybody was that. No, I guess not. And sometimes you get a surprise like, oh, really? Am I? Whoa. Sometimes it's pleasant. Sometimes it isn't. But it really is all your reputation and you got to own it. What I always tell people too is decide what you want your reputation to be and then behave that way.
Fantastic. Thank you, Julie. This next question, audience member Julie asks, how do we connect to the Career Happy Nation group?
Oh, Judy, thank you for asking. So, like I said, right now we are like, again, don't ask me for this stuff. But if you go to thebaukegroup.com, if you just scroll down a little bit, it'll say join the Career Happy Nation. We're doing it on a platform called Kajabi. And we are in the process of recording. I've got a thing in there about career happiness. We're in the middle of recording and creating new content to go in there. So it's going to become more robust as we move forward. So don't despair if you only see a little bit in there now, because we're building and recording like crazy. We're going to put all my media appearances in there. I'm building a YouTube channel, my speaker reel. So we're doing all this stuff that's going to be in there because I want you to be able to come to a place and say, how do I ask for a raise? I just did a video on asking for a raise that we're going to be putting on there. So we're creating content like crazy because this is, this is where, all it's going to be. So halfway down the homepage of the website. But thank you for asking.
Thank you for that, Julie. And to our audience members, hope to see you all a part of that group. We'll be joining you in there. I see that we have just a couple more questions. Perfect. We're reaching the end of the hour. Matt asks, do I need my coworkers' approval in order to be happy? And
no.
Great question.
No. You have my approval to be happy. No. You know what? If you are finding yourself always surrounded by a bunch of negatives, a bunch of people who are like, wah, 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 get out of there. No, you don't need your coworkers' approval. No, that's all I have to say on that.
Perfect, concise answer. Thank you. I guess this last question might have been answered by one of our audience members. Is it advisable for an engineer to put scores on GRE math and physics subjects tests on a resume?
It depends on where you are in your career. If you're super early in your career, the more relevant. Okay, so think about your resume like this. Think about it heavy at the top, The most recent stuff is the heaviest, and then it tapers down. So if you're 50 years old or even 30 years old, I wouldn't put it on there. But if you're right out of school, maybe even if you're applying for grad school, or maybe you're in an industry that really values that, you have to have a reason for stuff you put on your resume. Resume is not a historical dump. I'm sure I'll be putting some content in Career Happy Nation about resumes too. But it's not a historical dump. It's a marketing document. So you want to put the things on there that matter most, given your career goals and where you're trying to go. So if you let's say you're applying for a job at a company that really values that stuff, like, man, everybody's walking around with their scores written on their forehead, then yes, put it on there. So you want to think about where you're trying to go with this before you decide what to put on your resume. But things like GPAs, that sort of stuff, unless you're applying to grad school, after, let's say, maybe the first 3 to 5 years of your career, you can start taking that stuff off.
Perfect. Thank you, Julie. And actually, we did get one more question following Matt's question. We'll close it off after this one. Alice asks, isn't coworker approval part of that reputation management, though?
Yeah, of course. Coworker approval. Let's talk about that word approval. Yeah, I mean, if your coworkers think you're doing a good job, and if they are in a position to know whether you're doing a good job, their input is part of your reputation management, sure. Because if you're like, I'm awesome, and the 6 people in your department are like, no, you're not, you're probably not. And so, yeah, I think the people who work most closely with us, the people who we spend most time with, those are the people who can give us the best perspective. And yeah, I mean, their input, I guess I just don't like the word approval. I would say their input, their people's approval is a data point. I'm going to tell a really quick story. Okay, Jonathan. This is probably about 10 years ago. There was a woman I was working with we were trying to work together on some stuff. And she said to me, you are very quick to decide whether you like somebody. And I was like, And it wasn't a compliment. Okay. It was not a compliment. And I was like, how do I feel about that? I thought about it, and I thought, A, she's right. The next question was, B, do I want to change it? And the answer was no. So we take input because I feel like I'm right most of the time. Like, I can pretty quickly intuit, vibe and all that. And I think I save a lot of time. And have I missed some things along the way? Probably. But think about input as people telling you something, but it's coming from their perspective, how they see you. You get to decide how you take that. And if not everybody's input is equal. And so I would say people's input and approval from people you respect matters more than think about a person who you think's a clown. When they give you feedback, you're like, whatever, and you just pass it on. So I think it's a big fat, it depends, Alice.
Thank you for that.
I expect that of me, not you.
Sorry, I pressed a button. What I was saying was, unfortunately, we are out of time. I know we could go on for a long time about this subject. Luckily for everyone, this is the first part of a two-part webinar series. So please register for part 2. We've included the link in the comment section as well on the stream. Julie, thank you so much for joining us today and providing your insights into steps to getting a fulfilling career. We loved having you, and I can't wait to hear what the final 3 steps are in part 2.
Take care, everybody. See you in 2.
And thank you to our audience for tuning in and for your great questions. Please like and subscribe to our channels and check back daily on our social media for future live stream updates. Have a great day, everyone.
I've always been a very hands-on person, and I like the beauty of a machine that is well put together. I'm excited to work here because we are building a state-of-the-art particle accelerator in order to make medical radioisotopes more available for cancer treatments. I want to build something that matters, and this is something that matters. Being a member of IEEE, there's a whole community of people who are interested in what you're interested in. IEEE is my competitive edge.